Section 5 of The Cricket on the Hearth by Charles Dickens. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The Cricket on the Hearth by Charles Dickens. Bertha remained where he had left her, lost in meditation. The gaiety had vanished from her downcast face, and it was very sad. 3 or 4 times she shook her head as if bewailing some remembrance or some loss. But her sorrowful reflections found no vent in words. It was not until Caleb had been occupied some time in yoking a team of horses to a wagon by the summary process of nailing the harness to the vital parts of their bodies that she drew near to his working stool, and, sitting down beside him, said, "Father, I am lonely in the dark. I want my eyes, my patient, willing eyes." "Here they are," said Caleb, always ready. "They are more yours than mine, Bertha, any hour in the 24. What shall your eyes do for you, dear?" "Look around the room, Father." "All right," said Caleb. "No sooner said than done, Bertha." "Tell me about it." "It's much the same as usual," said Caleb, homely but very snug. "The gay colors on the walls, the bright flowers on the plates and dishes, the shining wood where there are beams or panels, the general cheerfulness and neatness of the building make it very pretty." Cheerful and neat it was, wherever Bertha's hands could busy themselves, but nowhere else were cheerfulness and neatness possible in the old crazy shed which Caleb's fancy had so transformed. "You have your working dress on, and are not so gallant as when you wear your handsome coat," said Bertha, touching him. "Not quite so gallant," answered Caleb. "Pretty brisk, though." "Father," said the blind girl, drawing close to his side and stealing one arm around his neck, "tell me something about May. Is she very fair?" "She is indeed," said Caleb. And she was indeed. It was quite a rare thing to Caleb not to have to draw on his invention. "Her hair is dark," said Bertha pensively, "darker than mine. Her voice is sweet and musical, I know. I've often loved to hear it. Her shape—" "There's not a doll's in all the room to equal it," said Caleb. "And her eyes—" He stopped, for Bertha had drawn closer around his neck, and from the arm that clung about him came a warning pressure that he understood too well. He coughed a moment, hammered for a moment, and then fell back upon the song about the sparkling bowl, his infallible resource in all such difficulties. "Our friend, Father, our benefactor. I am never tired, you know, of hearing about him." "Now, was I ever?" she said hastily. "Of course not," said Caleb, "and with reason." "Ah, with how much reason!" cried the blind girl, with such fervency that Caleb, though his motives were so pure, could not endure to meet her face, but dropped his eyes, as if she could have read in them his innocent deceit. "Tell me again about him, dear Father," said Bertha. "Many times again. His face is benevolent, kind, and tender, honest and true. I am sure it is. The manly heart that tries to cloak all favors with a show of roughness and unwillingness beats in its every look and glance." "And makes it noble," said Caleb in his quiet desperation. "And makes it noble," cried the blind girl. "He is older than May, Father." "Yes," said Caleb reluctantly. "He is a little older than May, but that don't signify." "Oh, Father, yes. To be his patient companion in infirmity and age, to be his gentle nurse in sickness, and his constant friend in suffering and sorrow, to know no weariness in working for his sake, to watch him, tend him, sit beside his bed and talk to him awake, and pray for him asleep. What privileges these would be! What opportunities for proving all her truth and her devotion to him! Would she do all this, dear Father?" "No doubt of it," said Caleb. "I love her, Father. I can love her from my soul," exclaimed the blind girl, and saying so, she laid her poor blind face on Caleb's shoulder, and so wept and wept that he was almost sorry to have brought that tearful happiness upon her. In the meantime there had been a pretty sharp commotion at John Peerybingle's, for little Mrs. Peerybingle naturally couldn't think of going anywhere without the baby, and to get the baby under way took time. Not that there was much of the baby, speaking of it as a thing of weight and measure, but there was a vast deal to do about and about it, and it all had to be done by easy stages. For instance, when the baby was got, by hook and by crook, to a certain point of dressing, and you might have rationally supposed that another touch or two would finish him off, and then turn him out a tip-top baby challenging the world, he was unexpectedly extinguished in a flannel cap, and hustled off to bed, where he simmered, so to speak, between two blankets for the best part of an hour. From this state of inaction he was then recalled, shining very much and roaring violently, to partake of, well, I would rather say, if you'll permit me to speak generally, of a slight repast. After which he went to sleep again. Mrs. Peerybingle took advantage of this interval to make herself as smart in a small way as ever you saw anybody in all your life. And during the same short truce, Miss Slowboy insinuated herself into a spencer of a fashion so surprising and ingenious that it had no connection with herself, or anything else in the universe, but was a shrunken, dog's-eared, independent fact, pursuing its lonely course without the least regard to anybody. By this time the baby, being all alive again, was invested, by the united efforts of Mrs. Peerybingle and Miss Slowboy, with a cream-colored mantle for its body, and a sort of nankeen raised pie for its head, and so, in course of time, they all three got down to the door, where the old horse had already taken more than the full value of his day's toll out of the Turnpike Trust, by tearing up the road with his impatient autographs, and whence Boxer might be dimly seen in the remote perspective, standing, looking back, and tempting him to come on without orders. As to a chair, or anything of that kind, for helping Mrs. Peerybingle into the cart, you know very little of John if you think that was necessary. Before you could have seen him lift her from the ground, there she was in her place, fresh and rosy, saying, "John, how can you? Think of Tilly!" If I might be allowed to mention a young lady's legs on any terms, I would observe of Miss Slowboy's that there was a fatality about them, which rendered them singularly liable to be grazed, and that she never affected the smallest ascent or descent without recording the circumstances upon them with a notch, as Robinson Crusoe marked the days on his wooden calendar. But as this might be considered ungenteel, I'll think of it. "John, you've got the basket with the veal and ham pie and things, and the bottles of beer?" asked Dot. "If you haven't, you must turn around again this very minute." "You're a nice little article," returned the carrier, "to be talking about turning around, after keeping me a full quarter of an hour behind my time." "I'm sorry for it, John," said Dot in a great bustle, "but I really could not think of going to Bertha's. I would not do it, John, on any account, without the veal and ham pie and things, and the bottles of beer. Way!" This monosyllable was addressed to the horse, who didn't mind it at all. "Oh, do way, John," said Mrs. Peerybingle, "please." "It'll be time enough to do that," returned John, "when I begin to leave things behind me. The basket's safe enough." "What a hard-hearted monster you must be, John, not to have said so at once, and saved me such a turn. I declare I wouldn't go to Bertha's without the veal and ham pie and things, and the bottles of beer, for any money. Regularly once a fortnight, ever since we have been married, John, we have made our little picnic there. If anything was to go wrong with it, I should think we were never to be lucky again." "It was a kind thought in the first instance," said the carrier, "and I honor you for it, little woman." "My dear John," replied Dot, turning very red, "don't talk about honoring me. Good gracious!" "By the by," observed the carrier, "that old gentleman," again so visibly and instantly embarrassed. "He's an odd fish," said the carrier, looking straight along the road before them. "I can't make him out. I don't believe there's any harm in him." "None at all. I'm sure there's none at all." "Yes," said the carrier, with his eyes attracted to her face by the great earnestness of her manner. "I am glad you feel so certain of it, because it's a confirmation to me. It's curious that he should have taken it into his head to ask leave to go on lodging with us, ain't it? Things come about so strangely." "So very strangely," she rejoined in a low voice, scarcely audible. "However, he's a good-natured old gentleman," said John, "and pays like a gentleman, and I think his word is to be relied upon, like a gentleman's. I had quite a long talk with him this morning. He can hear me better already, he says, as he gets more used to my voice." He told me a great deal about himself, and I told him a great deal about myself.